Liz, welcome to the Calm Mom podcast. So grateful to have you with us today. Glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
We're going to talk about the mental load today. You were just telling me how passionate you are to teach about it and coach about it and talk about it. And I'm so grateful because I feel like so many of us feel like we're being crushed under the weight of the mental load. So I
Yes.
can't wait to jump in. But before we do, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your family and kind of this work that you're doing, maybe even your journey in getting there.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been a therapist for over 16 years. And so I started worked in a couple different settings. But after I had my oldest, who's turning 10 this year, really got interested in like the perinatal period and postpartum mental health. And from there, it's just kind of evolved as I've had evolved in my own motherhood journey and realized that kind of this stressful period doesn't just stop after the postpartum period. It's like it's an ongoing thing, and there's different challenges and lots of overwhelm. And if you have subsequent kids and continuing career and all of those things. So I have 3 kids. They're 9, 7, and 4, and I have my therapy practice, and then I have my coaching business. So I totally am like in the trenches with all the busy moms trying to manage it all and do all the things and live up to all the expectations and all of that. So, but I love working with moms and just empowering moms to feel like they can really take care of themselves and find like a good balance and also be able to enjoy time with their kids. I often hear moms say they're so busy like coordinating life for their families that they don't actually get to like participate in life with their families. And so that is something that I really want women to be able to figure out how to do in their own life.
Wow, I love that. We are so busy coordinating our family's life that we don't have time to participate in it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's it. That hits.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's just kind of start with the mental load because I feel like that's a phrase that kind of gets thrown around a lot. And I think a lot of us have an idea or a conception of it. But like when you're talking about the mental load, what is it that you're referring to?
So I think of that as all the like invisible labor that goes into planning, coordinating, and organizing both a home and a family, because those are almost like 2 separate jobs that overlap. And all of the little like micro pieces that go into that. And it's mostly lots of not concrete tasks, so it's like so much harder to kind of feel like you're checking off and like actually getting through a to-do list. But all the background pieces, like, I don't know if you've read the book Fair Play, but she really like dives into this. But a good example that she uses is like when you're planning a kid's birthday party, you're like sending out the invitations, you're ordering the cake, you're getting the decorations, you're, all of the different moving pieces, planning the activities. And it's not just like, oh, hey, we're having a birthday party. And that's it. There's all these other little like micro steps involved. So I think kind of all of those things that lead up to the things that lots of moms want to do, like have these experiences and have their kids enjoying activities and doing different things and being involved with their school. And there's so many moving pieces, plus all the like laundry, dishes.
It's like all that stuff that just magically gets done, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, our kids just magically always have toothpaste, or like the toilet paper always there when I go and need a new roll, or like if we have a backup plan if it rains for the birthday party. It's like all those little things that no one really notices unless we miss it, because otherwise, right? It just like kind of keeps everything going. And it obviously takes energy. It obviously takes time. But I just even love the name, the mental load, because it takes up so much mental space. And I think that's the part that, at least I'll speak for myself, that I find to be most exhausting, right? It's just like trying to keep track of everything in my head that everyone needs, and like all my clients and everything at work and like all of the things. It's a lot.
And I think it's always like, you're always like having to think ahead with so much of that, right? Like, even, we're getting close to back to school, and it's like, do they need new shoes? What clothes are going to fit for the fall? We're going to have to change over like the seasons and, all of those kind of think, what's the school supplies that are coming down? My kids wear uniforms. So it's like, what? I need to look at like which uniforms fit and which don't. And all of those sort of like things that are coming ahead. Actually, like with the uniforms, I always give this example because when my kids started, they like switched schools a couple years ago and started wearing uniforms. And I remember coming home from like the used uniform sale, like, I don't know, like how many of each thing do they need? Like I've never had to do this before. And my husband was like, do you want me to take over taking care of the uniforms? And I was like, I would love that. But what I really want is like 3 weeks ago when the email came out about the used uniform sale for you to know, like, this is coming up and we have to start thinking about these things and we have to like get some used stuff. And if they don't have their size in the used, we need to, all of, and he just like stared at me like he had no response because he was just like, oh gosh, like he knew that none of that had crossed his mind. And so I think that happens a lot with like, and that's why it's like the mental piece is a lot of times women will say, like my spouse is really helpful, but they just like ask me what to do. And it's like, I want to just be like having to like delegate and assign because all the work that comes before that is just so time consuming.
Yes. And you mentioned Fair Play. I'm going to link it in the show notes for anyone listening. It's a book that I have used myself. And also like I use it with a lot of my coaching clients. I'll have it right here. I can see it from where I'm sitting on my bookshelf. And it'll kind of help you sort that all out and then really come up with a plan, right? On how we're going to distribute and delegate and like maybe even not do a lot of this stuff that's really kind of taking up space in the mental load. I want to hear about what a high functioning mom is. I want to hear about what that kind of looks like, because I think a lot of people listening can probably relate. And then I want to talk a little bit about how we can communicate all of the things on our mental load. As you talk about, the story with your husband, I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I can think of situations or conversations very similar to that.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I think, and I use the term high functioning because I feel like most of the women that I interact with, either personally or as clients, tend to be the kind of moms that are really trying to juggle a lot. Like they might have a career, they might be a stay-at-home mom, but even a lot of stay-at-home moms now have like side hustles and side gigs that they're trying to kind of run and organize, and that's like a whole nother moving piece. Or if you're like physically going to work and leaving your kids and all of the like logistics of those things, plus like just being connected with the school and having your kids in activities and being the kind of mom who's looking, reading the podcasts and the books about sort of like the parenting tactics or the strategies to help them with this or that, and kind of has their hands in like all these different things to manage home life, family life. And it's a lot. And I think we're kind of like in this almost like autopilot, auto drive of like, we do all these things and don't ever stop to think about like, how is this impacting my mental health, which has an impact and ramifications on the rest of the family, and how is, where do I get a break? Where do I get to take care of myself in the midst of all of this? Because you're just kind of in the throes of coordinating schedules and play dates and, all of those kinds of things happening all the time.
For sure. For sure. And as I'm hearing you share all of that, I saw this quote on Instagram. I think it was this week, but it was something to the effect of like, so much of our healing journey is a process of like deletion and subtraction instead of addition, right? We're like, I don't want to feel this anxiety anymore. So I need to add like a new morning habit, or I need to like, we think we need to add so much stuff to our life. We already have so much stuff. It's like, we actually need to delete stuff, right? And take stuff off our plate and like reduce the number of things we have to do every day and think about and are on our mental load on this invisible list and all those things. So I just love that that's your mission and that you're going out and sharing about this. Okay, so let's talk about it. We know we have all of these things that we're managing. Maybe we've tried to communicate or delegate them before and the ball was dropped or it wasn't done as it needed to be. And we're like, forget it, I'll just do it myself. Or maybe even, I know for me, sometimes like my husband will want to help and it almost feels like more work to have to like explain what needs to be done than for me to just sit down and take 10 minutes and just bust it out myself. So I would love for you to share with us, like, what are some healthy ways we can start to like recognize what we're doing and then communicate it, ask for help, delegate, like get some of that stuff off of our mental load?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, I think the proactive communication piece is huge. And because I
Okay.
think we often, just in busy family life, even if it's unintentional, we just get like, we wait until we're frustrated or annoyed or stressed about something to say, like, I
Yeah.
need you to help me with this, or I need this done, or can you do this? Which is still, you're initiating the asking, but really being able to like sit down and have conversations together. And I think not just like with your partner, but like even as a family, including the kids, depending on
Yeah, I love that.
ages, of like what it takes a lot of things for this family and home to run. And it's not just mom. And I do that with my kids. My kids, especially my 9 and 7-year-old, they get it and can be pretty like engaged in things that, um, but they're like, I make them fold their laundry every weekend before we can like do anything fun. And they're like, oh, laundry, but, uh, but they also want me to do fun things with them and play
Yeah.
with them or read to them or stop and do things. And I'm like, I can't do all of those things for our family and our house by myself and then still have time to do the fun things that I want to do. And so it takes all of us to participate in this as a family. We all live
Yeah,
here. We all wear the
love
clothes. We
that.
all eat the food. And then that gives us more time to like do the fun things. Like we get to have our fun activity for Saturday or watch a family movie night or whatever, because we've all helped and pitched in. And I think that's really important. And I think that is also hard because it is that level of like, it is easier to do it yourself oftentimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially initially as like kids are learning and spouses are learning new tasks to take on. But I mean, we all want our kids to be self-sufficient and like, independent and learn those things. And those are just like life skills. So if you can kind of like muster through the initial, like, gotta teach them and then they can do this. And ultimately it's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
And letting them like fail. I mean, I think that
Yes.
applies for kids and spouses too. I think sometimes and I was thinking about this when I was looking at your questions, because I think sometimes we jump in to do things like particularly for spouses because of the expectations of like everybody else or of
Yeah.
ourselves. Like we might let the husband, I don't know, get the kids out the door completely without like looking at what they're wearing. But then if the kid is wearing something not weather appropriate, who
Mm.
gets judged? The mom usually, right? And so I think we internalize that of like, if they don't come out with the right stuff or they don't have the right thing or they don't look like appropriate for wherever they're supposed to be, then the mom often is like the
Mm.
one who gets kind of the blame for that. And so I think we like, we know that in the back of our heads. And so we don't want to have to like deal with that. And I think that's
Mhm.
why we step in sometimes too. And I know, I mean, even I do that. There was one day this school year that like, it was like a dress down day for my kids. And I just like totally missed it. And
Mhm.
my son was like, he was like, one other girl in the class and I were the only ones wearing our uniforms today. And I automatically thought, man, her mom must have forgotten too. And then I was like, wait a minute, like her dad could have done it. Your dad could
Mm.
have done it, like put it on the calendar, reminded you, or like you're 9, you probably could have remembered to like,
Yeah.
it was dress down day. So kind of breaking some of those patterns and cycles and like noticing when you're doing them.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, letting your kids fail. I also make my kids like pack for trips. I use like a dry erase packing list so they know
Love
like how
that.
many of each things. But one trip we went on, this was probably a couple of years ago, we went to the beach and my son, the oldest one, forgot to pack underwear. And we got there and he was like, Mom, I forgot underwear. And it was fine. We were like staying with my parents and had a washing machine and stuff. So I was
Mhm.
like, it's fine. We can like make it work for like a short trip. But he has never forgotten to pack underwear
I
since
love
then. And so I think some of those things are just like those life experiences we have to learn on our own, and let people, have those kind of like missteps so that they learn those lessons themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I let my kids pack for themselves too. And I have for a while, and it's the same thing. Like they went up to spend a weekend with their grandparents, and they packed my little one, and she was probably 4 at the time. And my mom texted me, she's like, "She only has one pair of shorts." like one bottoms, and I'm like, well, she's just going to have to wear them for like 4 days
Yeah.
straight because
Yeah.
that she knows she packed. And she doesn't care, but I'm like,
Yeah.
it's one less thing I had to worry about. And
Yeah.
something for me, I don't know if I guess it's a mindset shift, but when I've like, cause it's so messy, to like let people do these things and take them on and learn them,
Yeah.
was really starting to look at it with the mindset that it was an investment for me, because
Mm-hmm.
investments are obviously costly and you don't get the return right away. But like, man, watching my whatever 3-year-old empty the dishwasher, like put away the utensils, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is taking like 45 minutes. And like, it's like so brutal to like watch her
Yeah.
go with these forks or things, and like helping her. And I could have done this in 30 seconds, but I just have to remind myself, like, this is an investment and it's going to pay off eventually. Right. Same thing with their laundry and stuff like that. And now she's almost 6 and like she just unloads the dishwasher and it's nothing, but
Yeah.
I had to go through that like investment period where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, breathe, like this is gonna be okay.
I love
It's
that,
worth
like
it.
that mindset shift around it.
Yeah, it helped
Once you
me.
kind of experience the other side, I mean, like I said, my kids have also been packing themselves, but we just went like on a big trip. We did like 12 days in Italy and Croatia, and my kids like packed themselves. And I remember like when we were packing for trips back when they were younger, and it would like take me like a full day to pack
Yeah.
for a big vacation. And this time I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like done packing because they packed a lot of their own stuff and it didn't take as
Awesome.
long, and was great. I had like more time to do what I wanted to do or needed to do. And so I love that mindset shift of like, it is an
Yeah.
investment, it's a cost up front, but it is worth that. And I think it's kind of tricky, I think, with spouses with that, because it's
Yes.
like we don't want to like have to like walk through steps. But I
Yeah.
think kind of letting them figure it out too, and not have feeling like, okay, if it's not exactly the right way. I
Mhm.
often tell my husband, I'm like, I think you're a very intelligent person, and I think that you could probably figure this out on your own, and you don't need to ask me this question. And kind of letting him have the space to
Yeah.
do it too, and being okay with that things might not be done exactly the way you want them to be,
Yeah.
or but if it takes that pressure off of you, then it is worth that in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to the mental load too, again, for myself, and I think a lot of the women listening, there are these seasons, some longer than others, where we just feel so overwhelmed. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's just so much. And sometimes, my husband or a friend or someone's like, how can I help? Like, what's going on? And I almost can't even verbalize like what
Mm-hmm.
it is, because it's so much that I just feel so overwhelmed. And we talk about overwhelm a lot on this podcast from a nervous system perspective and
Mm-hmm.
like what's going on in our bodies and our
Yeah.
brains and what we can do to help. But I would love to hear some of your kind of tips and tools for when we're experiencing a lot of overwhelm, or when we're in periods that feel really stressful or seasons that feel really stressful. Like, what are some things that can really help? Like, what are some handles that we could try to take
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. I think that's a really important piece of it, like the physiological response. And so what I have clients do a lot of times at the beginning is like, really, we have to really dig in to get to know ourselves
Yeah.
better and kind of know what triggers us. And sometimes that requires like some deep work and kind of
Yep.
going back to patterns from how we were parented, or our life experiences, and kind of what things are sort of like setting us off or feeling more triggering or feeling more overwhelming.
Yeah.
And just really knowing that. So then you can really like prioritize, like, how do you invest your time to take care of the things that are going to help? I know, like, for me, clutter is very
Yeah.
like overwhelming. And so I do, like an overview, like multiple times a day, probably, but like every night, to kind of like straighten things up. And then I'm like, don't touch the pillows on the couch. I just straightened them. But I know, like, and I verbalize this to my family,
Yeah.
it feels better to me. It feels less
Yeah.
stressful to me when we don't have stuff like all over the place, and we can
Mhm.
find things and we put things back in the right place, because then it saves us
Yeah.
like the stress and like that harriedness of like, you're trying to find something when you're
Yeah.
running out the door and you can't find it because you didn't put it back in the right place or whatever. So just really getting to like understand and notice, pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
And even just like things that I don't think we think about a lot, like the auditory stimuli of being a
Mm-hmm.
mom, and like the physical stimuli of being a mom, and just being touched a lot, and being
Mm-hmm.
hearing a lot of sounds, and it's just always loud. Like,
Yeah.
it's just always loud. Like, I feel like I can never find a time to like call my mom on the phone, because it's just like always loud in the background, unless I'm like not with my kid. I can never like call her when they're home, because there's just noise happening all the time.
Yeah.
And but recognizing, like, for me, that can be really overstimulating, or even just like knowing yourself in other ways,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of you need to take care of yourself, in terms of like your own health routines, and like the basics. I think really like honing in on kind of what feels good for you, like
Yeah.
movement wise and sleep wise and nutrition wise, and so that you can kind of keep your baseline at a good place. So when
Yeah.
things do get more overwhelming, you're not like on edge as much as
Mm-hmm.
easily. Recognizing kind of like what you need, like socially, or from like an outside of mom life
Yeah.
perspective. I'm like an introvert in the sense that I like really need to recharge without a lot of people
Yeah.
around. And so knowing that if it's a particularly busy season, like really being intentional and conscientious about how I'm scheduling my time, and am I
Yeah.
leaving space to like do the things that I need to do to take care of me? Am I leaving space to like kind of regroup and recharge a little bit? So I
Yeah.
think like that's a really big piece of it, is just kind of like really understanding yourself and doing some work on like who you are and what
Yeah.
you need, and really practicing like some self-acceptance around that like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're not the like high energy, can get all the things done without being overwhelmed at the end of the day person that you might like to be, but that's okay. Like, how are we going to make that work for you and for your life, and still
Yeah.
meet your needs?
I love that. And I love really getting to know yourself in all of that, because even like from a nervous system perspective, we all have different levels of sensitivity
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to stimulation, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
I know for my husband, like he can work sitting at our kitchen table with like sports on the TV,
Mm-hmm.
music playing, like the back door is open, and like the landscapers are cutting the grass and the
Yeah.
dogs are running in and out, and he's just like there on his computer working. And like that would drive me nuts,
Yeah.
right? And like like when I'm done for the day, it's like the first thing I want to do is dim all of the lights,
Yeah.
like turn off the TVs, like put the mute, like call music or just silence.
Yeah.
And it's just because I'm more sensitive, and my nervous system, was probably other things to it too, but
Yeah.
I'm more sensitive in my nervous system. And it's just interesting because we're like we're just bombarded all day long with different kinds of
Mm-hmm.
stimulation, all the requests, right, from our kids. It's like
Mm-hmm.
snacks and questions and all the things. And then our phone, right? It's like email and the dings and the pings and the notifications, and it doesn't stop. And then we get to like dinner time after a full day of just being bombarded, and we wonder why, we have a short fuse while we're trying to make dinner, or at bedtime, right? We're like, I'm so like bedtime's so hard. I'm just like so snappy. And it's like, well, do an inventory of
Yeah.
all the stuff that came at you today. It's like you're at your limit. Like no
Yeah.
wonder you're beat by the end of the day. So I agree. Overstimulation is such a big um, part of it. And if we can really put good one awareness, right, I guess, and then two, put some good boundaries around
Yeah.
our stimulation, even just putting your phone away for a few hours
Yeah.
can really help with that. But like, yeah, the noises and the sounds and the lights, all the things.
Yeah. I have found one of the best things I've done in the last like year or so was start keeping my phone charger on a table in my room that I can't reach from my bed.
Yeah.
Um, so that I walk by it and I put it down, and then I like go to bed and have that kind of like time screen free to really like decompress. But I also think like communicating your needs, like once you kind of know what you
Good.
need,
Yeah.
and being able to share that with your family. One of my kids plays the piano, and then he'll also like often put on like music on Alexa, like pretty loud. It's just like, there's always like background music. And I'm like, I love when you play music in our house, but right now it feels like it's too much. There's too much going on for me to have like all of these things. Like maybe you can listen to that somewhere else or later. And just being able to kind of like identify. So, and I think that is like a good way to also just teach kids like to understand other people's needs and empathy and like, all right, like this might be okay for you right now, but it's not okay for me right now. And so we need to be like respectful of each other's needs and space.
Yeah, it's a good teaching moment. I love
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, I also want to talk about, I think sometimes we unintentionally or inadvertently have such a big mental load because we expect so much of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And right, we overestimate how much we can get done in a day. And then we kind of have this like overwhelm, guilt, shame, whatever
Mm-hmm.
cycle because we're just not getting stuff done that we want to get done. Can you talk to us a little bit about expectations and how
Yeah.
that kind of contributes to the mental load and then what we can do about it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's like some people pleasing elements in that too. That's
Mm,
kind of like this cultural, like women, we feel like we should say yes to all the requests to volunteer for the school and like, you know, all those
yeah.
kinds of different things, or we'll disappoint people. Um, and so, yeah, I think that it's so hard because I think we have like been raised in a way that just puts women, particularly moms, in like expecting a lot from ourselves, because we've been sort of given this like message of like you can do it all, you can do it all, which yes, moms are amazing and can do anything they want to, but we can't do it all at the same time. Like we're all still human.
Yeah.
So kind of recognizing that, you know, like our own humanity. But I do think it's a lot of cultural and societal pressure, and I think social media just obviously gives
Yeah.
us this impression that like all these other people are doing all these things perfectly, and then we just get stuck in that trap. And so again, I think going back to like knowing yourself and knowing that like learning to like be confident in your own decisions for what you do, like that you make for your family, that it might not look like how other people's decisions play out, that's okay. Like you're all unique individuals with different needs, and so you might not be able to do all the same things that other people do. um, but really like recognizing that like these expectations that we have and that society has for us are not realistic. um, and I don't know, like I find a lot of times that my clients that are kind of in this cycle, sorry, my dishwasher is like beeping in the background, um, are often like oldest or only daughters in their family, where like and I think there's some just kind of birth order stuff and things from growing up of like where we just kind of got pushed into this role of like having to take a lot on and feel responsible for a lot just naturally. And so that
Yeah.
just seems like that's just kind of the baseline, when really that's not necessarily like a sustainable way to continue, especially if you're balancing like a career and raising little people.
Mm-hmm.
um, so really like the self-compassion piece, talking to ourselves like you would talk to your best friend. That's what I always try to remind clients. Like if your best friend came and told you they were doing all of the things that you're doing and were saying like, I just don't feel like I'm doing enough, you would never say, you're right, you're not doing enough.
More.
You would say like, oh my gosh, like you're amazing, you're doing
Yeah.
so much, like
Yeah.
more than enough, you're a great mom, you're doing all these things. And if we could like shift
Yeah.
that, the way we talk to ourselves, just even like a piece of that, how much of a difference it would make in how we
Mhm.
feel.
Yeah.
um and like recognizing that like it's okay to have those limitations too. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's just like that's such a hard part of it. But just being kinder to ourselves.
I agree. And I think it feels very countercultural. Um, but the more that I have come to not only recognize, but like appreciate and lean into my limitations, right? Like those are God-given limitations. Like I do not
Mm-hmm.
have endless capacity or bandwidth or energy or time or anything, right? So it's like understanding that I was created as a limited being for a reason. And
Yeah.
then learning how to live within those limitations is actually so freeing. It feels
Yeah.
so good. It's like it's not a defect. It's like this is how I was created to be. And the more I can become at one and at peace with that, then I'm like, oh, just like this big exhale. Okay. I
Yeah.
don't have to do it all. I
Yeah.
wasn't expected to.
I think a lot about like how Brene Brown talks about that the basically the antidote to shame is like vulnerability. Because in that vulnerability and authenticity piece of like when you can recognize your own limitations, and I think, and you probably experience this because you work with a lot of moms, because I hear like so many moms kind of intimate, like inner dialogue out loud to myself.
Yeah.
I know that so many moms are experiencing this, but not everybody realizes that. They think
Yeah.
like only one. And so the more authentic we can be with each other, I think that's very freeing too, because then we see like the more we can show that, then the easier it is to kind of practice that self compassion with each other, and knowing like, okay, we're all kind of in the same boat. Like this
Yeah.
is, it's really hard. It's really hard. The society that we're living in to parent and do all of the things, there's just a lot. Um, and it's okay if you're like feeling like you can't do it all. Like
Yeah.
everyone
It's
is.
not you. It is a lot.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's not that you're not capable. It is hard, right? It's like
Yeah.
just acknowledging that. Yeah. And it's exactly what you just said. It's a practice. So
Yeah.
it's like catching our self-talk, right? Catching ourselves and then shifting it, changing it. And then over time, as we continue, our patterns will change and our
Yeah.
thinking will change and that self talk will change. And compassion might even be our first response, right?
Yeah.
When we get to that point consistently. I love it.
Yeah.
Man, this was so good.
Yeah.
It's just such a hot topic. And I think I'm so grateful that you're filling this space because I think all of us at some point or another feel overwhelmed by the mental load because it is so much and it's different than it was, for our parents or their parents. There's just more, just the nature of the
Yeah.
world that we live in now. So thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
sharing
It was great. I feel like we
so
could talk
much
about this
wisdom.
forever, but
Yeah. Let
yeah.
everyone know where they can connect with you and find you and learn more about your work.
Yeah. So, well, if you're in Maryland or Pennsylvania, I'm licensed as a therapist in those places, and my therapy practice is called Perissos therapy. It's a Greek word that means abundantly exceeding expectations, but very hard to pronounce and spell, which I did not think about when I named it, but love the meaning. And then my coaching is just Liz Kent Coaching. I'm on Instagram at Liz Kent Coaching. And I have a Facebook group where I put a lot of resources and strategies and do, some live talks on managing stress and overwhelm. And that's the Mental Load Mastery for Moms
Awesome.
group. So yeah, and I have a group coaching program that's runs 12 weeks with a course that you can kind of do on your own timing, and then group coaching calls each week to get support from other moms and answer questions and figure out how to implement those things in your own life. So
How awesome. I love
yeah.
all of that. Cool. We'll link that all for you guys in the show notes so you can have easy access and check it out. But thanks again, Liz. Thanks for being here with
Yeah.
us
Thank you
today.
so
Appreciate
much. I
it.
love chatting with you. Talk to you later.